How you doing, guys? This is Eric from RuleTheWasteland.com. I know you probably, if you've been paying any attention to the news or social media, you've seen a big ramp up in a lot of the rhetoric around the current situation. I'm trying to avoid certain keywords so these videos don't get blocked or demonetized. But regardless of what you want to call it, situation, pandemic, whatever, the rhetoric has been really ramping up regarding different types of, passports and lockdowns. And I don't know what percentage I would put it at, but I really do think we're going to see some significant increases in the restrictions in the coming months, or at least it's very possible. And I definitely think that preppers, especially, but everyone, should take this time to make sure you have everything in order in terms of your basic preparations, your basic stockpiles, things like that. I mean, we've even seen, not related specifically to lockdowns, but we've seen a lot of supply chain issues cropping up over the past year and a half, 2 years. I don't think that's going to get any better. I think it'll continue to get worse. And I think that it's just a good time to always make sure you get what you know you're going to need when it's available instead of just on time type delivery stuff. Because, like I said, even if there isn't lockdowns or government mandated restrictions, there could be all sorts of other supply chain issues, just shortages, bottlenecks, things like that we're seeing, like weird chip shortages. So you can't make the trucks or fix the trucks, and then you can't move these certain products, and then so everything gets messed up. And even if the product that you need is there somewhere along the chain, it can't get to you or can't get to the next step or things like that. So I mean, I've been saying for years in my videos that I don't think that it's as likely that our country would see an instant plummet into a disaster or shit fan scenario, that it would more likely be a slow descent into just all of a sudden we wake up one day and we're not necessarily the prosperous first world country that we remember. And, you can't just, at that point, you can't just go into the grocery store at any time you want and get whatever you need with no worries like we're used to our whole lives. I think that's an anomaly historically for the human race. It's amazing, but it's not reality in terms of the natural state of things. We've been blessed, for lack of a better word, to be in this kind of prosperous situation, and we're seeing that start to change now, unfortunately. Now, it could just get a little bit worse slowly. It could get drastically worse quickly, but in either case, you need to take advantage of when things are available and get them now. So that means all the stuff that we've always been talking about, with dried goods, toiletries, any product you use that gets consumed that stores well, toilet paper, paper towels, any sort of soap and detergents and body wash and toothpaste and toothbrushes and shaving cream and food and any medicines and supplements you use, any gasoline or fuels if you have a way to store a little bit, just literally anything. And another reason beyond the supply chain issues, beyond the lockdowns, is simply inflation. If it continues to go the way that we are going with the monetary policy, with the money creation, which obviously that is what's going to happen. They're going to continue to debase the currency. Then even if these things are available in a year and a half, 2 years, they're going to be more expensive, at least in nominal terms relative to the strength of the dollar. So I think it's very important to spend the money if you know it's something you're going to use and it stores well and you have the space and all that. Spend it now, or really quickly put that money into something that can at least rise with inflation, like silver. Got a little MK bars, silver round back here. Pretty cool stuff, man, if you ask me. But I also want to talk about one thing that I think is extremely likely to happen if/when there is any more significant lockdowns or pandemic-related restrictions. Now, we've already seen the economic devastation, basically, that was unleashed from the previous lockdowns, previous restrictions, just crippling the small businesses. And, there were probably ways, like if there were a disease that was really bad enough that you needed to do some kind of lockdown like that, which is conceivable. Obviously, coronavirus has turned out to be extremely not deadly, luckily. But if it were and you had to do lockdown, there's ways you could mitigate the economic disaster. It would no way to eliminate it completely, the effects, but you could at least mitigate it. What we've seen is haven't been doing that at all. It's been a complete wealth transfer from, crushing small businesses, middle class people, and then in favor of supporting all these giant multinational corporations, the Amazons, the Walmarts, things like that. Even the way they deal with the rent issue, like just not allowing or making it so that tenants don't have to pay rent with no consideration for how that's going to be resolved at the property owner level. Like, why is for landlords, why is it okay to not pay them when using their product as opposed to the grocery store or the gas station or the car lot or anything else? Like, yes, it's important that people have a place to live, and if that's your stance, and there's tons of other ways that you could go about having this resolved as opposed to just not, letting people not pay with no or very few restrictions, because there's plenty of people that never did lose their job or still have income and are just not paying because they can't get kicked out. So it's a disaster. But because of all these things, I think one of the very, very likely outcomes of more lockdowns is some sort of continued stimulus package slash universal basic income, or UBI. Now, I really do think that it may seem like they don't want to do that, but I really think that that's honestly the goal, because once you have people under this plan, whether that's the current systems of like welfare, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, anything like that, once you're on any kind of these government programs, they basically have you by the balls, because you can do all they have to do is threaten different types of restrictions, and then you automatically end up supporting the person who is going to keep the gravy train running, so to speak. People so quickly become dependent on whatever their source of income is. And this isn't just liberal people. Like, as soon as people, it could be your job, even if it's not a government transfer payment, people just instantly become dependent on whatever source of income they have. And that's hard to avoid. You have to actively work to make sure that doesn't happen. And most people are not doing that. So, especially when it's government payment, people very quickly become dependent on that, and then all of a sudden they have utter control because you can't survive without it being there. So the threat of it disappearing is the most important thing to worry about. So then a lot of people just make their voting decisions pretty exclusively based on that, on keeping their job, their income, their ability to live the lifestyle that they're currently living rolling. So because of that, it becomes very appealing to get for the government and for these institutions to get people onto those doles, because then they have almost like a slave voting base that whoever promises the biggest gravy train or to keep it running, they get the vote. So I don't think that they're reluctant to do these things at all. I think they act like it, and but they're more than happy to see people get locked into these positions because then they control them. And I definitely think they want to take advantage of that. I think it's done not necessarily some giant overarching scheme to get everybody on these, but I think it's the opportunity's taken when it's available, and once people are in there, they see how easy it is to control them. So it's definitely not something that they're not giving away their money. This money's coming out of thin air anyway. So I definitely think that there is going to be heavy pushes for some sort of UBI, some sort of drastically increased, continued COVID stimulus plans. So let me know what you guys think about that. If you think we will see significant lockdowns in the near future, we've seen so much talk coming up. I really think that they're going to use this not only as an opportunity to kind of push for these UBI payments and things, because that actually also helps cover the problems they're having with the monetary policy. It gives them an excuse to create all this money, to create all this liquidity. And then it also gives an opportunity to lockdowns themselves for them to kind of blame anybody that they want. If that's the people who aren't taking the medicine, whatever, they can say, oh, look what you made us do, kind of thing. If only these rabble-rousers would get on board, we wouldn't have to do all this. So it's a way for them to foment a lot of discord and a lot of lateral policing, so to speak, which is becoming scary at the level that we're seeing now. I honestly thought the stuff was going to taper off, but it's not hard to imagine how things in like Eastern Germany and everything happen with the way people are acting about just so quickly and easily turning against their fellow citizens just because of fear. And scary stuff, but I do think we're going to see more lockdowns coming. I think we're going to see more UBI, and I think it's a good time to make sure you're prepared. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.